Come on in, come on in. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone. Thank you guys for coming in. Thank you all for coming in. So, listen, I am really excited to share with those of you
Come
that,
on in, come on in. Hello.
for those of you that are following me, for those of you that are a part of my community. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you. So, listen. Over the last several weeks, I have really been focusing on the step by steps of starting, growing, and sustaining your nonprofit organizations. One of the things that I am always striving to do is to ensure that your organizations really understand what it means to start your nonprofit, what it means to run your nonprofit, what it means to grow your nonprofit, right? So we're not just a program, but we are a business. So today I want to talk about fundraising. Okay, I want to talk about fundraising. Um, I have written several books in this space. I've written several books in this space, and recently I wrote a book on nonprofit startup success. All right, nonprofit success. It's a workbook that really walks you through the step by steps of starting, growing, and sustaining your nonprofit organizations. And so, for those of you all who've been following me on my various pages, you all may have heard me talk about the nonprofit workbook, right? The success workbook. And it can be found in a couple of spaces. For those of you that are watching me here on YouTube, for those of you that are listening to me on my podcast, and for those of you that are following me over on my TikTok as well. There are different places where you can find the link to the Nonprofit Success Workbook, and I'll put them in the comments where I can. All right. Today, we're going to focus on chapter 4 of the book. Chapter 1 of the book talks about the structure of the organization. Chapter 1 of the book speaks about the structure of the organization, how the organization must be structured in order for the business to operate. Yesterday, I did a long live on one of my social media channels talking about when you start your nonprofit organization, there is some misunderstandings, right? And so I want to just briefly go over those misunderstandings just so that you understand the importance of laying the groundwork and laying the foundation of your organization without starting and then having to restart. All right. Most people who start their nonprofit organizations do so because they're passionate. You guys have heard me say that all the time. However, you've either lived through something or seen a community need and you really want to fix it, right? And that's where most new nonprofits start, or that's where you begin from the place of there's a need and I want to fix it. And again, nothing wrong with that. Or I've gone through something and I want to help another group not go through what I went through. That too, nothing wrong with that. But this is what it looks like. That looks like if I start my nonprofit, that if I just run the program, the nonprofit will work. I'm going to say that again, that if I just run the program, the nonprofit will work. But the reality is this: the nonprofit is an organization, a business that must be structured. Did you see what I said? It is not if I run the program, the nonprofit will work. That's not it. The nonprofit is an organization. It is a business, and it must be structured. It must be funded. It must be marketed. It must be managed like a business. Just like a mission instead of profit, right? It must be managed. It must be managed. Here's a real example. I work with a woman who started a mentoring program for teen moms, and she had a beautiful vision. But no donor plan, no budget, no board strategy, no financial system. Within a year, she burned out and shut down. Why? not because the program didn't work, but because the infrastructure did not exist. I'm going to say that again. She did not shut down because the program didn't work. She shut down because the infrastructure didn't exist. She didn't have any donors. She didn't have a budget. She didn't have board support. She didn't have a financial plan. She didn't have was doing everything within the program by herself. Am I making sense? And so there's this misunderstanding that comes with starting my nonprofit and my program will work, but the rest of the organization is a hot mess, right? Running a nonprofit takes more than a great idea. You need the pillars to make the organization operate. What are the pillars? You need the organizational infrastructure. And that's what we talk about in chapter 1 of the Nonprofit Success Workbook. How do you put together the organizational infrastructure? All right. That's putting together the board. That's putting together the systems. That's putting together the pattern of how are we going to market it? How are we going to fund it? Where is money going to come from? What is our messaging? Where are we going to share our messaging? That's the infrastructure that has to go in place in addition to the program. Without the organizational infrastructure, your donors can't trust you. There's no clarity, there is confusion, right? And without it, your organization doesn't run smoothly. Like, who's supposed to do this? When are we communicating? What are we communicating? How much does it cost? Where is money coming from? Without the infrastructure, no one is managing the business, right? Chapter 2, we talk about, or the organizational structure is also your funding management, right? Where does donors come from? We're going to talk a lot about that today in the chapter that we're on today, chapter 4. So we have to build relationships, right? Now, how much time does that take? When you're starting your nonprofit organization, you know, because of your passion, how much time it takes to run the program because that's your passion. But how much time does it take per week? How much time does it take per day? How much time does it take to run the organization? Now, why is that important? Because when you are bringing on board members, when you are bringing on people to help you, you should be able to let them know how much time, what is the time commitment? What is it that we are looking for your volunteer hours, right? How much time does it take to manage the infrastructure? How much time should it take to fundraise? How much time should it take to market your organization? How much time should it take to put together the strategic planning? That's the infrastructure, right? What happens when you skip this? You're overwhelmed. You don't have a written plan. Your board's not engaged or inconsistent. You're the only one that's doing everything, right? Most new founders run into a wall. Why? They're excited. They start out very excited about the program, very excited about doing the work of the program, but then wind up what? Overwhelmed, broke, confused. Why? Because you didn't put the organization in place. You didn't recognize how much time was needed. So, in my nonprofit success workbook, I'm breaking down do this the first week, do this the second week, do this the third week, so that you can manage the time needed to lay out the entirety of the infrastructure. Okay. Again, what I don't want you to do is come out with, oh my gosh, I got my nonprofit. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. And then within a year, you're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed. You're confused. You are discouraged. And this is why most small nonprofits shut down within the first 18 months because you did not start properly. Okay. So I have created the Nonprofit Success Workbook. It is not just about filing your 501c3. It's about running your nonprofit. It's about running your nonprofit. Okay. The organizations in your community that have executive directors, that have buildings, that have staff, they are professionals. That is their business. That is their job. It was my career for over 38 years, right? So I want you to know what it takes to run your organization like them. How do they run their organization? How do they manage? How do they create the funding opportunities? How do they put together the streams of revenue? That has been my career. That has been my background for 38 years. And so I've put it in this workbook, the Nonprofit Success Workbook. So, what's inside? How to create the structure, the infrastructure, how to build your board and structure the roles, how to onboard your board members, your fundraising strategies, your donor outreach, your budgeting, your sustaining, your grant readiness tools, your monthly and quarterly checklists. Okay. So, this is what I've created for those of you that are really interested in not just starting your nonprofit organization, but really understanding how to run it. Okay. How to run it. Now, today we're going to talk about chapter 4. Chapter 4 in the Nonprofit Success Workbook is about donor engagement and donor retention. Donor engagement and donor retention. Put engagement and retention in the chat. Put engagement and retention in the chat. We're talking about now how to actually raise money for your nonprofit. How to raise money. Now, you know that you need to raise money, right? You know you need to raise money. Uncle Google told you that. Cousin Chat told you you need to raise money. You need to fundraise, okay? They told you what to do. I'm about to tell you how to do it. They don't tell you how to do it. How do you actually raise the money for your nonprofit? All right. As you all are coming in, again, thank you for those of you that are listening on my podcast, Nonprofit Nuggets with Jennifer Yarbrough. I appreciate you. For those of you that are watching me right now on my YouTube channel, thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following. I really appreciate you. For those of you that are also chiming in from my other social media channels, thank you very much for being a part of this conversation, which I think is really, really important. All right. I am Jennifer, and I'm always happy to share with you my 38 years of experience of not just starting your nonprofit or restarting your nonprofit, but today I want to talk to you guys about how do you fund it? How and where does money come from? All right. I want you all to know that today we're going to uncover one of the biggest reasons most nonprofits struggle to raise money. Did you hear what I said? Today we're going to talk about one of the biggest reasons most nonprofits struggle to raise money and how you can fix it starting today. Okay. Chapter four of the Nonprofit Success Workbook is a guide in our talk, right? So one of the things that I've committed to those of you in April is that I'm not just going to give you the guide, I'm going to walk you through the guide, right? Every day I'm coming in and I'm talking about the guide, I'm explaining the guide, I'm explaining how the information in the guide is to be used, right? What does Google and Uncle Chat do? They give you the information, but they don't tell you how to use it. They don't tell you, how do I take this what to do list that I've given you? Now, how do you use it? That's what I'm doing. You have the workbook, and I'm coming in every day to explain how to use it. Okay. So if you have it, grab it now. If not, I'll show you how to get it in a little bit. All right. So part one of chapter 4 is really understanding the fundraising myth. Most believers or most nonprofit founders believe. All right. This is a fundraising myth. And I just really want to bust this myth. Okay. Fundraising is not just writing grants. Fundraising is not just writing grants. Fundraising is not just writing grants. It is not posting a donation link on your social media. And it is not fundraisers. I'm going to say that again. Fundraising is not writing grants. It's not just about writing grants. It's not about posting a link on your social media. It is not fundraisers. All right. Some of you think if I start my nonprofit organization, my program works. My program works. I'm passionate about my program. My program works. The myth can be people will give because they care that my program works. People will give because they care my program works. That's not true. They need to know, they need to be connected to your mission, not your program. What is your program? Your program is a group of activities that are strategically and intentionally designed to achieve your mission. I'm going to say that again. Your donors and your funders are not giving you their money. They're not donating. They're not contributing. They're not sponsoring because you tell them your program works. That's not what they're funding. They need to know, they need to trust, they need to be connected to your mission. What is your mission? Your mission indicates the benefit of your program, not just that your program works, but what is the benefit of your program? How does your program benefit the community? How does your program benefit the people in the program as well as the need for it in the community, right? Because your donors, your funders, your partners, your supporters are not in the program. So you stressing that the program works to a person that's not in the program is not enough. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? So when we're talking about, Jen, I need to fundraise and this is my program, this is my passion. That's not why the donors give. It's not because your program works. It is because your program is needed, and by it working, this is the result. This is the benefit of our program that it works. So your support of our organization ensures that our program not only works, but we get this benefit, right? We get this outcome. We get this solution. That's what they're supporting. They're not supporting you because your program works or because you have a program. That's not what they're supporting. And that's a very common myth. Many of you start your nonprofit with this is what I want to do. Jen, I want to do a transitional house program. Jen, I want to do a food pantry program. Jen, I want to do whatever the program is. And you're thinking my program works. But that's not why donors give. They give because they understand what is the benefit of the program. Am I making sense? Many of you also may think grants will fund my startup. Grants will fund my startup. No, not without donor engagement, not without data, not without proof that your program is needed, not without a proven track record. Did you hear what I said? Many of you will start your nonprofit and think, oh, grants, there's a startup grant. Jen, I was told that if I start my nonprofit, I could get a grant. So you might think there's a grant that's going to fund my startup. Not without donor engagement, not without data or proof that your program is needed. That's the application. The grant application asks, what is the need? It'll ask, what is your program design? It'll ask, where else is money coming from? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Okay. So you've got to make sure that you understand not just what you're starting, but what is the use for it? What is the need for it? What is the benefit for it? All right. Thank you all for coming in. Thank you all for coming in. Thank you all for coming in. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Okay. The next one is the next myth is I don't have time to fundraise. I don't have time to fundraise, Jen. This program is taking all my time. I don't have time to build relationships. I don't have time to generate revenue. I don't have time because your focus is on the what? Program. But what does that mean? then you don't have time to run the nonprofit. If you don't have time to generate the revenue needed to operate, then you don't have time to run the nonprofit. And if you don't have time to run the nonprofit, then how is the nonprofit going to be sustainable? How is it going to grow? How are you going to show evidence and proof that what you're doing is needed if you don't have time to run it? Right? This is the truth. Fundraising is a strategy. Put strategy in the chat. Fundraising is a strategy. Fundraising as a whole, as an umbrella, it is not just grant writing. It is not just events or fundraisers. It is not just a donate button on a website. No, fundraising is a strategy. Put fundraising equals strategy. Fundraising equals strategy. Fundraising equals strategy. It is not, I need to write a grant. It is not, I need to get donors and sponsors. It is not, it is a strategy. It is a strategy of what? Acquiring donors and retaining them. It is the strategy of bringing and getting the interest and growing the interest of your community and retaining that interest. It is getting in front of marketing, bringing awareness about what you do, and building relationships. That's fundraising. It's a strategy. Okay? So in chapter four of the Nonprofit Success Workbook, we're talking about donor engagement and retention. And in this chapter, we talk about what is donor engagement? What does it really mean? It's not just saying thank you, right? They made a donation, um, and then we just said thank you. That's not donor engagement. Okay? That's just not donor engagement. The donor journey begins. The donor journey begins with a stranger, a total stranger. They don't know what you do. They're not in your program. They are not currently aware of your program or your mission. They're a total stranger. These are the people that you meet at networking events. These are people that you are introduced to at the different meetings and opportunities that you have within your community to raise awareness. They're totally strangers. They don't know you. They don't know the mission. They don't know your program. They don't know anything about you, right? They've never been to your website. But the donor journey begins with how do I move a person who is a stranger to a supporter and then to a repeat giver? Did you what I said? That's fundraising. Fundraising is a strategy of how do I get from a stranger to a supporter to a repeat giver? How do I track and nurture donors? What is it that turns a one-time donor into a monthly supporter? That's fundraising. It's a strategy. It's a predictable system. All right. And for many of you that started your nonprofit organizations, you all didn't put the system in place. You started with the program. You started because you were excited about the program. But the program is nothing but an expense, right? The business side of the nonprofit has to have the strategy. That is the job of you, that is the job of the board, is to have the strategy of how we're going to sustain, how we're going to nurture, how we're going to diversify the funding streams of the organization, right? So, as a part of fundraising, which again is a strategy, knowing why and how to move strangers into supporters, that's fundraising. How do we raise more money? We bring more supporters. We get more supporters. We get more supporters. How do we get supporters? We identify, we reach, we introduce to more people who don't know what we do, don't know the importance of what we do, don't yet understand the significance and the benefit of what we do. How do they come to know what we do? That comes from introduction, that comes from your marketing, that comes from your networking, that comes from your outreach, that comes from your awareness building. But if you didn't put that part together, you started your nonprofit and you went straight to program. The program is nothing but a expense. Why? So in chapter 4 of the Nonprofit Success Workbook, we talk about why is retention more cost effective than always trying to find new, right? Jen, oh my gosh, I got to do this all the time. You've got an ongoing budget. You've got an ongoing budget. That means you've got ongoing expenses. You need what? Ongoing revenue. So in this workbook, we talked about your donor profile. We talked about outreach messages. How do you introduce your organization? We talk about retention. We talk about follow up, right? If you get your first gift, what is the strategy to get the second gift? We talk about building a monthly giving program. All right. That's all in chapter 4 of the book. What happens when you do not have a fundraising strategy? Let's talk about it. Because some of you who just think, oh my gosh, Jen, I got my nonprofit and we do great work, but you don't have a fundraising strategy. You don't have a fundraising strategy, right? Let me paint the picture for you. Here's what it looks like when you don't have it in place when you start. When you start your nonprofit, again, many people think that if I start my program and my program works, then that's my nonprofit. And that's not true. That's not true. Your program is not for profit. The not for profit business is not the program. So you've got to set up the business. But this is what it looks like when you don't have the business strategy of funding, the business strategy of sustaining when you start. Before you start doing that program. Why? Because the program is nothing but an expense. But if you don't have the strategy to generate the revenue, then that program can't continue. Why? Because you run out of money. You wind up paying for everything out of your pocket. And then when you run out of money, we don't have any money and now we have to stop. Okay? But when you start without a strategy of how do we acquire, how do we retain, how do we manage our donors, you're constantly scrambling for funds. Constantly. Put constantly in the chat. You are constantly scrambling for funds. And that's not how it's supposed to be. You are constantly scrambling for funds when you lack a donor strategy. All right. I want to thank everyone again for coming in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for those of you that are listening to me on my podcast. Thank you so very much for those of you that are watching me now on my tuberations. I appreciate you. I see you. I see you. I see you. Thank you very much. And for those of you that are also listening on my other social media platforms, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Listen, as a person who has been doing this work for 38 years, I am always excited to share with those of you that are interested in the subject matter what it takes, not just to start your nonprofit organization, but what it takes to grow it, what it takes to fund it, what it takes to sustain it. All right. Today, we are talking about your strategy for raising money. Strategy. All right. Fundraising is a predictable strategy. It is a predictable strategy. Without the strategy of raising funds, you are constantly scrambling for funds. And y'all may be operating it like it's some kind of hustle, right? Some kind of hustle. Like, oh my gosh, I gotta get up and I gotta make this happen. No, it's a strategy. It's a predictable strategy. You do this first, and then you do this second, and then you do this third, and then you do this fourth. It's a very consistent, predictable strategy. It is not constantly scrambling. This is what it looks like when you don't have a strategy. You're losing donors after their first gift. What does that look like? They made a one time donation and then they never donated again. They gave last year, but they didn't give this year. They attended the event, but then you never heard from them again. Did you hear what I said? You're constantly losing donors after their first gift. Now, that is crazy. They've made the first gift, but you don't what? Have a strategy to get the second gift. They made the one-time donation, but you don't what? Have a strategy to invite, to encourage, to inspire, to motivate, to show the reason for them to continue to invest. You've not built the relationship. So you got that one-time gift and they're gone. Now, what are we going to do next month? What are we going to do the month after that? Right? Because we have ongoing monthly expenses. We then need what? Ongoing monthly revenue. Well, where's that money going to come from? Donors, funders, supporters, contributors. But if they gave a one time gift and they never give again, then you're constantly scrambling. Because why? You don't have a strategy to keep connected to when they gave the first gift. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? What happens when you don't have a strategy? You get burnt out from doing donation asks that don't work. You get burnt out. Jen, I've been making my ass. Jen, I've been emailing people, but they're not responding. They're not opening the email, Jen. I've been making asks. I've been doing birthday asks. I've been asking, and nobody is responding. That's because you're not using a strategy. Asking for money is not the only part of the strategy. In fact, it is the smallest part of the strategy. The smallest part of the strategy is not about asking for money. That's not the strategy. The strategy is not asking for money. The strategy is sharing your benefit, sharing why this program is needed, sharing why our mission matters, sharing how and what difference the donations and the contributions are going to make, speaking about the need and how your organization meets the need, sharing what success looks like. That's more impactful than an ask. But when you don't have the strategy to communicate, to articulate, to clarify why your organization is a benefit, you do get frustrated. You do get burnt out because you're like, oh my goodness, people are not passionate, people are not getting it. And that's not true. You're not working the strategy of awareness building, of benefit sharing. And that is what attracts the donor. Not because you have a program, not because you have a need, not because of what you're asking. No, you are sharing the benefit. That's the strategy. I'm telling you what it is. No CRM or way to track who gave, right? That's a part of the strategy. Well, Jen, they attended my events, but I don't know who was there. I don't know who gave. I don't know what they gave. I don't know why they gave. They were at the event, but I never heard from them again. I never saw them again. So, no CRM or way to track who gave. So now you don't know who to follow up with, right? So now there's no follow up system outside the initial thank you. You don't hear from them again. And the number one reason that donors stop giving to nonprofit organizations is because they never heard from them again. That's the number one reason that donors stop giving. They say, I forgot I even gave to them. I gave to them so long ago. I didn't even hear from them anymore. I forgot that I gave to them. I forgot. Why? Because you don't have a system of retention. You don't have a system of retention. Am I making sense? Am I making sense? Am I making sense? Right? This is an example. I had a founder call me earlier this week crying because she raised $5,000 from a small campaign and then had no plan to follow up. No plan to follow up. She lost every one of those donors. They helped her raise $5,000 and she had no plan to follow up. And she lost. Can you imagine having it and then losing it? Having the donor. They made the donation and now they're gone. She lost every one of them. Why? Because she didn't have a system. She didn't have a system. And many of you are not raising the funds that you need, not because of money. Money is not the problem. It's the problem of the money comes with a system to raise it, a plan to raise it, knowledge of how to raise it. If you don't have any of that, then there is no money. Well, Jim, we got a couple of gifts. We got a couple of gifts, but they never gave again. No, we don't have a donor list. No, we don't have a system to manage the donors. No, we don't have a plan or a strategy to keep or retain them. And that's why you don't have any money. Money's a fruit. She lost every donor. How many of you all have worked really hard at fundraisers, right? Y'all have worked long and hard, tirelessly putting together fundraisers. You all are buying things, you are coordinating the fundraisers. The people come to the fundraiser. They've donated, they bought the ticket, all the things. And then after the fundraiser, you don't hear from them again. You know what that means? That means you lost them. That's what that means. That means you lost the donor. That's what that means. You lost the donor. Why? Because you don't have a system. You don't have a strategy. All right. And so this is what chapter 4 of the Nonprofit Success Book looks like. So let me walk you through the journey. And this is what's in chapter 4. Okay. This is what's in chapter 4. And I actually even have a handout. I have a worksheet. For those of you that have the workbook, you have a worksheet comes with it on how to build out your donor strategy. Okay. So let's walk through the donor journey together. All right. This is the core of your fundraising strategy. The donor cycle and how to use it. The first thing is attracting, right? The stranger, the person that doesn't know what you do. So how do you make a connection with the people? It is not by what you send in an email or anything like that. All right. So first thing is the attracting, right? That's through your social media. That's through your events. That's through your referrals. That's through your networking opportunities, right? You are attracting, you are sharing, you are showing your benefit. You are speaking about the need. You are introducing you and the mission and why the mission is important. You're sharing the visuals of what the statistics say about the problem and how your organization is going to address the problem. That's going to attract them, right? They're not attracted to you because you're a nonprofit. They're attracted to you because you understand a problem in the community and you know how to fix it. They're attracted to you because you are aware of a need and you are there to meet the need of a community. They're not attracted to you because of your idea. They're not attracted to you because you have a nonprofit. No, they're attracted to you because they understand the importance of your mission. They're attracted to you because you know how to solve a problem. They're attracted to you because you are a benefit to the community. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? They're not attracted to you because you have an idea, because you are passionate, because you started a nonprofit. That's not what they're attracted to you for. Okay. Now there is the connection. After the attraction comes the connection. Before the investment, which is the donation, there has to be a connection, right? So there's the introduction. Hello, my name is, I'm the executive director of, right? So there's a thank you, there is an introduction, there is a discovery conversation, there might be an email exchange for a meeting invite or an opportunity to discuss things. You might have met someone at a conference and you want to follow up on that meeting. That's the connection opportunity, right? Then there is the engagement, inviting them, having conversation, giving them a tour, letting them understand what it is that your organization is doing. And then you make the ask. Now, let me tell you what you don't do. You don't walk up to a complete stranger that you don't know and they don't know you and say, I'm a nonprofit and I need $10,000. You do not get in somebody's inbox emailing a total stranger saying, I need money. I don't know your mission. I don't know the audience that you serve. I don't even know you. How many of you open up emails from people who are asking and spamming you for money? How many of you all respond to that? How many of you all get all these spammers and people who get in your inbox and say, hey, I'm a nonprofit. I need $50,000. I need some money. I need you to give me some money. You ain't said hello. You ain't said who am I. You ain't said nothing about your mission. I don't know nothing about your website. You done bought this list off Fiverr, and all of a sudden now you are going to start just sending out emails. How many of you all open those emails? How many of you open those emails and say, where's my card? Let me send them some money real quick. How many of y'all do that? No one does that. No one does that. No one does that. But because you don't know the system, you think the system is telling somebody I'm a nonprofit and they're going to give me money because I'm a nonprofit. All I got to do is tell them I'm a nonprofit and I have a need, and I'll ask them for something and they'll just give me money because I told them I'm a nonprofit. And that's not true. And that's frustrating for many of you because you don't have the proper system. Am I right or no? This right here is where most nonprofits fall off. This right here, not having the proper understanding of how donors, the life cycle of a donor. You all got to put yourself in the donor's shoes. I want you to say that again. You have to understand the donor, not just what you want from the donor, but you have to understand the mindset of the donor. You have to understand what is the psychology of a person, you included. What is it that inspires, that motivates people to give? It's not just that they want to help, it's they want to fix, they want to solve. So what is it that you give back to them? What are they solving? Not what you need. That's not what the conversation is. It's what are you solving? Why is it important? This is how it benefits the community. That's how you put together your strategy. That's how you put together your marketing strategy. That's how you put together your campaigns. That's how you put together your ask. Now, I am a professional fundraiser. I've raised hundreds of millions of dollars for nonprofit organizations, and none of those organizations were mine. It was my job to walk into organizations and to assess their systems to determine, is your fundraising system working? And most of your fundraising systems are not working. And that's only because you don't know how it works. That's it. It's just because I don't know how to put it together. I don't know what's supposed to be a part of it. I don't know what to do first. I don't know what to do second. I don't know what to do third, which is why in the workbook, I put it there. Do this first, do this second, do this third, right? That's what you're looking for. You're looking for the what do I do, which is why you go to Cousin Google, which is why you go over there to chat. Why? Because you're wanting it to say, what do I do? How do I raise money? How do I get donors? How do I fundraise? Right? You're asking for it to tell you what to do, and it's not telling you what to do. It's not because it's not working. I'm telling you, I have put together the strategy that always works. Always. It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. How do we know it's guaranteed? Because those organizations that have salaries, what is a salary? A predictable expense. So, in order to pay salary, we need to have what? Predictable revenue. Where does revenue come from? A predictable fundraising strategy, because you can't pay a salary without the money coming in. Where's the money coming in? Fundraising strategy. How do they maintain that building? How do they pay the predictable lights, the predictable phone, the predictable expenses of managing the building? They've got a predictable strategy to generate revenue. It's predictable. It works. It does not fail. But many of you are frustrated because you've tried what you know to do and it has not worked. And so you're like, well, maybe it doesn't work. No, it's your strategy is not working. The raising the money is not the problem. It's your strategy that doesn't work. Am I making sense? Let me tell you all the truth. It takes 5 to 7 touches before a donor is ready to give. And again, why many of your strategies are not working is that you're not factoring in what is needed before the donor, the stranger, becomes a donor. What is needed before the stranger becomes a donor? And that's about 5 to 7 touches. Right? So, what are the 5 to 7 touches? That's your social media. That's the face to face. That's the phone call. That's the email. Right? That might be a tour or a conversation with someone else. That might be going to your website. We're already at 6. Okay. So, you've got to create those opportunities for credibility building, for relationship development, for interest development. You all do not find someone that you find interesting without what? Also doing your research, right? So you all may found me. I may be talking about something that you're interested in. But what are you going to do? You're going to watch me for a while. You might go over to my website. You might go over to one of my social media pages. You might just do a little scrolling around. You might ask around why? Because you want to be sure, right? You want to be sure. Your donors are the same. Before they make a donation, before they make a contribution to a total stranger, they want to be sure, where's my money going? What's my donation going to do? So lay out the touches, lay out the opportunities for them to be able to build trust, to build credibility, to understand that what you do actually works. They're not giving to you because you are a nonprofit. Am I making sense? The average donor retention rate is about 45% for the first time donor. For the first time donor, the retention rate is about 45%. Now, how do you increase that? How do you increase that? That means 55% of the first time donor is not going to give a second gift. But why? It's normally because they're not fully connected. Now, they may give you $100, they may give you $20, but they may just be giving you that because you're standing in front of them. But that doesn't mean that they're connected. That doesn't mean that they want to know more. That doesn't mean that they feel and find what you do is important to them. So, how do you increase that? How do you increase the donor retention rate of the first time donor? It's not by asking again. It's not by asking again. It's by demonstrating, it is by articulating, it is about showing how their donation made a difference. Letting them know that the need is being met by your organization. And again, I go into a lot of that in the workbook. All right. Most monthly donors have a 90% retention rate. 90% when you have a what? Strategy for monthly donors. Now, who is a monthly donor? A monthly donor is not a person who doesn't know you. You don't ask a person who's a total stranger to become a monthly donor. If they've made a one time gift and then within 6 months made a second gift and then made a third gift, they're likely a good candidate to be a monthly donor. Okay. So in the workbook, I've walked through what that looks like. And it also is important to note that it costs 5 times more to acquire a new donor than it does to keep an existing donor. Did you hear what I said? It costs. It costs you 5 times more money not to know how to retain donors. Money. It costs you more money when you don't know and have the strategy for donor retention. Why? Because you're constantly looking for more, constantly looking for more. Now I got to have another event. Now I've got to go do more networking. Now I got to meet more strangers. Now I got to put out more marketing. Now I've got to get through the 5 to 7 touches all over again. It costs more time and more money. What does that mean for you? That you don't always have to chase new donors until you learn how to keep the ones you have. Otherwise, you'll keep losing them, right? I got a new donor, lost it. Got a new donor, lost it. Got a new donor, lost it. Don't chase new donors until you learn how to keep the ones you have. All right? Here's a couple of strategies that work. Let me give you 3 strategies that you can start this week to raise money and build relationships with your donors. All right? I'm going to give you guys 3 strategies and then I'm out of here. Here we go. Number one, first gift conversion strategy. First gift conversion strategy. What's a first gift conversion strategy? First gift conversion strategy is after they've made the first gift, how do you convert them to a second time giver? Okay. So you send them the email within 48 hours. Most of you all do that. Then you have a thank you. You call have a thank you call from either your board member or yourself within 3 days. And then within 30 days, you update with an impact report or photos, letting them know and to see how their donations made a difference. Okay, that's one. You all can do that within the next 30 days. Okay, staying top of mind. That's the strategy. Staying top of mind, not begging, not asking, right? An ask and a thank you is not a thank you, it's an ask. Okay, so if they've already given, we're not rustling and hustling them to give us again. That's called they get what they call donor fatigue. Okay, so you don't want to do that. So you want to manage the strategy. Put strategy in the chat. Put strategy in this chat. Fundraising and getting additional gifts is a strategy. All right. It is a strategy. It is a strategy. It is a strategy. It is not, what should I do? I don't know. What do you think I should do? No, it is a system that everybody goes through. Everybody goes through it. Everybody goes through it. Everybody goes through the same strategy. Everybody, it's predictable. You ain't got to change it up. Everybody goes through the same strategy. Everybody. Everybody come in, this is what they get. Everybody come in, this is what they get. It's strategy. It's routine. Okay. It's not, oh my gosh, I got to build up something every month. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. Once you got the strategy in place, you don't need the strategy again. Now, my company, that's what we do for organizations, and we create your strategy, your conversion strategies. Okay. People pay us to create their donor funnel for them. My point is this. Let's go to number two. Number two strategy. The second strategy is to build your monthly giving program. Okay, your monthly giving program. Ask 10 people to give $10 a month. Ask 10 people to give $10 a month. That's about $1,200 a month, right? So if you ask 10 people, your board asks 10 people, everybody asks 10 people a month. That's cash flow. All right. And then you have in my book, there's a template to outline your offer and your ask and your message for your monthly giving program. That's in my workbook on chapter 4. All right. And then give your program a name or your campaign a name, the monthly giving program a name. Okay. But you can start as easy as that. The average gift is about $40, but it's easy for a person to give $10 a month, right? It's harder for them to give $20 or give $100 a month. And you actually are able to get more yeses that way, right? And then how do we raise more money in the monthly giving campaign? After the first year, ask, would you consider to increase your $10 gift to $15 a month? Why are we asking you that? Because we want to grow and expand our program. And your additional $5 gift is going to help us to be able to afford the systems, the tools, the resources to expand our program to reach more people, right? So you're not begging for more money. You're letting them know what those additional resources are going to enable you to do to have a greater benefit to the community, right? So that's number two strategy. Number three is use a donor retention calendar, a calendar, right? So you plan 6 to 8 touch points per year. You plan 6 to 8 touch points per year. So that's text, that's email, that's notes, that's photos, that's videos, that's newsletter, all those things. Highlight stories, not just stats, highlight stories that show, that demonstrate, that articulate, that confirm that your program is working. What does that do? It builds trust, it builds credibility, it shows consistency, it shows success. It shows that the donor and the funder can trust you with their money, that they can be confident that their money is working. Am I making sense? The Nonprofit Success Workbooks helps you put all of this in order. You don't need to guess what to say, when to send it, or how to build the system. Okay? The workbook does all that for you. From mission to money, this workbook helps you build a nonprofit that works like one. From mission to money, from mission to sustainability. Inside the workbook, you have donor message templates, you have email outlines, you have a retention tracking chart, you have a monthly giving planner, all those things. Okay. I give you the worksheets, I give you the information that complements the workbook because I really want to make sure that you don't just have the workbook, but that you have the steps to work the book. Okay. That you have the steps, that you have the strategy. And again, I've committed to coming here every day throughout the month of April to explain what's in the book, to walk you through the book so that you're not just kind of trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I do it? Where do I begin? I'm here to help you to do that. Additionally, those of you that have the book, I'm also inviting you to a Q&A on Tuesday. Those of you that have questions, you have the workbook, you have the other documents, and you're able to come and say, Jen, I have a question. I see this, but I'm not really connecting. I'm really not sure what to do. And so I'm going to make myself available throughout this month to make sure that what you are seeing, what you are reading is clear. All right. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? I want to say thank you for those of you that are watching me again on my YouTube. Thank you for those of you that are listening on my podcast. Thank you again for those of you that are chiming in from my other places and spaces on social media. My name is Jennifer Yarbrough. I am your nonprofit expert, over 38 years of experience helping organizations put together plans and strategies, systems, and tools to help ensure that your organization not just starts, but that you have the right strategies, that you have the right structures, that you have this right infrastructures within the organization so that you can thrive and generate the revenue needed. I want to say thank you again for those of you that have liked. Thank you for those of you that have shared. Thank you for those of you that have commented. Thank you for those of you that even have sent me notes. I can't respond to all of them, but your engagement means the world to me. And I hope that the information that I've shared with you has been not only meaningful, but has given you some clarity and some directions on what to do. Again, if you are interested in getting the workbook, we are on chapter 4 is what we discussed today. Tomorrow, we're talking about chapter 5, which I think is marketing. How do you market your nonprofit? How do you market your program? How do you market to attract your donors and funders is what we cover in chapter 5. And again, the workbook is intended to make sure that when you start, you have all of these systems in place so that you're not now scrambling after you start trying to put these things in place. Okay. That if we start straight, if we start strong, then you're able to grow from there as opposed to starting and then stopping and then having to start all over again. And I still don't know what I did wrong. All right. Thank you again. I will see you all next time. And again, I appreciate each and every one of you. Y'all have a great rest of your day.